Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Artist Forge On, where we get together with the amazing members of the Artist Forge and talk about what we've covered this week in our morning meets, morning walk and photo talk on Clubhouse. Break everything down with the amazing moderators of the Artist Forge, get into some visual literacy and share a little bit on mindset. So first, before we get into it, let me bring on my co-hosts, the amazing Matt, Becca, and Bassam, all incredible artists, photographers, and business people. I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves real quick, and then we'll break down a little bit for those of you who are not familiar with the Artist Forge, what we are, what we do, and then we will start chatting about the main topic of conversation for today, which is managing conflict. We've been discussing this all week long. There's a lot here to cover. So before we get started, Matt, why don't you let everybody know who you are and where they can find you?
Sure. My name's Matt. Down there. Matt Stagliano of Stone Tree Creative. I'm in Maine, and I am at Stone Tree Creative on all platforms.
Right on. And what do you do, good sir?
So I'm a portrait photographer, specializing primarily in natural connected portraits, storytelling type portraits.
Love it. And let's move to Bassam. What about you?
Hello, I'm Bassam Sabag, and I'm a portrait photographer from Montreal. Actually, I have two lives. I'm a portrait photographer that specializes in personal branding, boudoir, and maternity. But I also split my time doing coaching, mentoring, and consulting for entrepreneurs and business owners and leadership teams.
Perfect. And where can folks find you online?
Curious Photography. I'm online as Bassam Sabag Photography on Instagram, and Bassam Sabag, my personal profile on Facebook, and my website, curiousphoto.com.
Perfect. And Becca, let folks know who you are and what you do.
Hi, my name is Becca Bjorky. I am a photographer and concept artist. I work mostly with other forms of storytellers to create a visual storytelling to help benefit their imaginary, fantastical worlds that they create.
And where can folks find you?
Oh, you can find me. I'm the only Becca Bjorky if you look me up. I am on Instagram, I'm Becca Bjorky. On Facebook, Becca Bjorky. You can also find me at my website, which is thebeccaeffect.com.
Heck yeah. All right, y'all. And of course, hopefully some of you know me if you're hanging out today, because this is all over my platforms. But my name is Nicole York. I am a storyteller of all the things, from costume design to photography, digital art, novel writing, all kinds of stuff. You can go hang out and on NicoleYork.com and just see all the stuff I do. So basically, to give you a little bit of background on the Artist Forge, this started off at the end of last year with a series of interviews that carried us all the way through COVID. I was lucky enough to get to talk to some of the most incredible artists in the country about why they do what they do. And I ended every single interview with the same question, which was, what is your why? I wanted to know why artists decide to take on this career, all of the difficulty that is involved in trying to make a living as a creative, when you could be doing anything else. Almost any job out there is something that you could be doing. And that really helped me understand the fact that we can have all of the technical skills, but if we don't have a why, if we don't have a reason to create and a story to tell, a voice and something to say, what is all that technical skill for? What do we do with it? Why does it matter if we don't have a story to tell? And so the Artist Forge was founded. And then since this last March, I've been hosting, along with these incredible folks, a morning show on Clubhouse 5 days a week from 7 a.m. to from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. in the morning, Mountain Standard Time. And we talk about mindset, and we talk about storytelling and visual literacy and all of the in-between space that seems to be left out of so much of the online education sphere. We have a whole lot of education, amazing education out there on technique and how to light and how to pose and how to sell. And we don't have a whole lot on why. Why do you choose the light that you choose? Why do you choose the composition? How do you put things together to help bring your vision to life? Where does that creativity live? Where does that storytelling live? How do you increase your visual literacy so that your imagery is more complex? It tells the kind of stories that you want to tell. So that is the purpose of the Artist Forge. We're trying to become a bridge for folks between technique and art. We want to help you get there. We want to help you take your vision and bring it to life with awesome techniques that you learn from great educators out there. So that is our goal. And we are now joined by the lovely Kat. Welcome, Miss Lady.
Hello. Sorry for my god-awful monster light.
Hey, I'm just glad that we have you. So the rest of us have been introduced. Kat, will you let everybody know a little bit about yourself so they know who the final host is for the Artist Forge?
Well, I am Kat Ford Coates. I'm a portrait photographer. I'm based in Asheville, North Carolina and Sarasota, Florida. I'm an official mentor for Sue Bryce Education. And yeah, I make shit.
She do. She can teach the hell out of some business too. Yes. So, and where can folks find you online, Kat?
youunforgettable.com. On Instagram, it is Atelier Unforgettable. Atelier is French for studio. And yeah, that's the short version of my 47 gajillion accounts.
Yes, I feel you there. Yeah, so what you see before you guys is the team behind the Artist Forge, the artists behind the forge, where we're trying to help you forge yourself into the artist who can have the career that you dreamed of. And so to that end, each week and each day, we have a topic that we cover in the mornings. And this week, we've been talking about conflict. We've been talking about the fact that as artists and business people, conflict is naturally going to arise as part of our profession when we deal with other businesses, when we deal with our clients and other artists, even with our communities and the fans that we have. Every now and then, confrontation is going to pop up. So we want to know, how do we deal with that? How do we deal with that effectively from a place of service so that everybody can walk away happy with what's happened with the transaction if they're a client, with looking at our art. So I wanted to open this up as well for the audience. We love having you guys. I hope you will say hi in the comments. Let us know you're here. And if you have been part of the talks in the morning, let us know what some of your big takeaways were from the conversation. And in the meantime, I want to get with the rest of the hosts, y'all. What are some of the takeaways that you have had, some of the most important aspects you think of dealing with conflict as an artist, as a business person who has to inhabit these online spaces?
As we all rush to mute ourselves, I think, one of the biggest takeaways that I've gotten this week, and it's kind of been the common thread throughout all the conversations, is understanding your own personal bias. That conflict and confrontation can be two different things, but when you're in either one of those, either a confrontation or a conflict, understanding your own personal bias, understanding how your ego works and what your beliefs are, what your value system is, the more that you understand that, the more likely you are to be empathetic towards whoever is confronting you or is in the conflict with you. And you can approach the conversation much differently than if you're reacting on emotion. So a lot of what I've found in the conversations this week have centered around that, just being a little bit more self-aware than we normally are, so that we can approach it, dispassionately, stand our ground, know ourselves, and have a conversation that's more productive, and meets in the middle rather than trying to win or trying to be right. It's more important, in my opinion, to make sure that each side is understood and that they can work together for as a solution.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's wild to me how often we can overlook the fact that on any conversation that we have, especially when things start to get tense, how much our biases will come into play and make it really difficult for us to actually see what the other person is saying, because we almost have these filters up between what they say and then how we actually interpret what they say through all of these things. So what are some things that you think we can do, Matt, to help deal with our biases so that we can actually interpret what somebody else is saying properly?
Yeah, I think, one of the things that I try to do, right? I can't say that I'm a conflict resolution expert, but one of the things that I try to do in my conversations with people is sit back and listen, ask a lot more questions, ask them, okay, if if I hear something that I don't necessarily like, I say, all right, well, is this what you said? And is this what you meant? And a lot of times what people say and what they mean are two different things. So if you can ask them that, is this what you said? And they agree with it. And, well, is that what you meant? They may change their opinion. So that's one technique that I use. The second technique is just pausing, listening, taking a beat before I respond, making sure that I truly understand what's happening and I'm not responding emotionally. I'm responding with logic and, with a solid mind rather than just trying to respond with straight emotion. So that never ends well for me. So I try to just keep calm and listen. A lot of times people just want to be heard. They want to voice their concern. And in that, if you can just internalize that and see it for what it is, you might find that there's actually a different thing that's bothering them that you can explore rather than just taking it at face value. So always dig a little bit deeper so that it's truly getting to the heart of the matter rather than just what's on the surface.
Yeah, absolutely. So important. If you're just joining us, welcome to the Artist Forge live stream. We really want to hear from y'all. How do you manage conflict? How do you manage that as an artist and a business person? When something pops up, maybe a client wasn't happy with their service or somebody online just doesn't like your work and they feel like you should know about it. How do you deal with it when those come up? We want to see your comments and share them today. If you're here, go ahead and say hi. We love to hear from you guys. That's the whole reason we're live in the first place. So while we wait for our audience to share a little bit with us as well, I would love to hear from you, Bassam, because I know that you actually have spent the last week helping people learn to manage confrontations and conflicts. So what is a really important takeaway that you can give to the audience today?
Well, I think Matt touched on one of the most important things, which is self-awareness, because there's a lot of models that we can follow in terms of conflict management and how you deal with angry customers or complaints. And inevitably, every single one starts with the first step being actively listening. But I believe there's one other step before that that's extremely critical, and that's taking the time to center yourself, right? Because when we talk about biases, when we talk about walking into a situation that you're maybe either not expecting, I mean, these things are not planned in advance. Usually you walk into a situation, somebody's angry, somebody calls you, somebody, comes to you in person. And it's okay to take a few seconds, even, half a minute or a quarter of a minute to center yourself, take a breath, change your disposition in a way that puts you in a receptive mood and in a way that you can actively listen. And the dangers is that somebody approaches us, somebody starts speaking, and we're already in action mode. Even if we are trying to actively listen, we just haven't taken that time to ground ourselves. So, things like taking a deep breath, things like just kind of feeling that grounding yourself and taking that deep breath and having it kind of travel down to your body so that you ground yourself through your feet. Just a small step that kind of puts you in that a position that's conducive to having the conversation.
I found that that's a really big deal for me because a lot of times that initial reaction is just to want to defend myself or lash out at somebody. And I really do have to take a step back and be like, wait a minute, get yourself in order before you say something that you're going to regret. And I know that when I'm at my best, I don't want to hurt somebody with my response, but sometimes that initial instinct to defend ourselves, we do kind of want to lash out, make somebody get away from us, push them back, right? So we really do need to take that time just to ensure that it's not a straight emotional reaction that we're having.
Yeah. So just as an example, in the context that I'm living right now, where I'm coaching some supervisors dealing with employees coming back from a strike after a long, very difficult, destructive strike. And a lot of people are angry. And the important thing in terms of grounding yourself in this case is the fact that some of the supervisors and management, they're just as pissed off as the employees. They're not happy with the company, right? And it's easy for them to get into the discussion, start agreeing with the person and making them feel good. Yeah, I agree, this, that, and the other. But at the end of the day, they have a role to play as a supervisor, as management, and they need to take that extra step to get into that role. That's one practical example of how that can help.
For sure. And I want to say hi really quickly. Some friends are showing up today. Sissel is here with us. Hello, lovely. Thank you so much for being here today. And so is Claudia. Erica, one of our wonderful members, says, hi there. My takeaway from this week is to listen to the issue and have empathy for the client and work together to find a resolution. But ultimately, I do my best to communicate to avoid conflict. And I know that was one of the big topics we particularly talked about, which was what can we do in advance? How can we educate our clients and manage expectations so that we avoid that conflict down the road? And Kat, I know that this is a really great strength in the way that you have built your business, right?
It is. Education is crucial to avoiding those pitfalls. And I actually think Becca had a really great insight earlier this week when we were talking Tuesday, I think. And she said, you just say thank you. Thanking the person for bringing, X, Y, or Z to you really takes everything down a notch, because you're honoring that person for even having the balls enough to show up and say, hey, I don't like this. But education throughout your process before you ever get to the sales room is, and doing it in such a way that you can incorporate as many of our physical senses as possible, eyesight with email and discussing, listing out your process and your pricing, and then in conversation at the consultation and having them repeat back those boundaries and expectations as well as the details to you, and physically holding your product. All of those things make it so that when you get to the sales room and they've had their experience with you, that the sale piece where they give you money, that's just an equal exchange, and they're happy to do it because everybody's been informed on all fronts.
Yeah, I remember you talking about this and thinking it was so fantastic just to have this, at the beginning, letting them know and then repeating it and then showing them the products and then just over and over and over again, kind of reinforcing what you have told them so that by the time it's at the end, I mean, the chances of conflict have just dropped significantly because they know what to expect. And I think that that's such an important thing for us to make sure that we're doing as business people. You have an entire customer experience from the first contact with you all the way through to the end. And if we can build that in a way that just reinforces value and reminds them of the process and explains what the pricing is over and over and over again, becomes really hard for them to have an issue, at that point, I feel like.
Yeah, you get some wild cards like, hey, I brought my mother with me and she hasn't been involved in the process at all, or the sister or the spouse, or, insert person here. But those are so few and far between. I think so long as you are actively engaging and educating throughout your entire process, really all it is another point of connection.
For sure. So really good point, guys. We've talked about centering yourself. We've talked about taking time and looking at your own biases and then building the situation so that you avoid conflict from the beginning. So that's kind of a few really great things we have so far. And I want to make sure we share a few more comments that we're getting from one of our friends on Facebook. Hello, thank you guys so much for addressing this topic. When it's a client, I try to communicate and understand their feelings and where they're coming from. I have to vent to my trusted partner a lot of times to get out those ego-centered frustrations, but then really try to center, like Bassam was just saying, when I finally connect to a client. And I think that's so smart because we need those safe spaces. Sometimes it's just hard and we do have to get over our hurt feelings, right? So that's when we need those people that we trust and they can help us get rid of some of those feelings and get centered before we have to go interact with our clients. So that's really super great. And before we get to Becca, there's one more comment we have coming in. The thing that throws me off is if someone comes in to shoot and when they see their images, they say they wish they were a little more light and happy. I have to say, have you even seen my work? I guess I have to educate more on my style, but I guess I just assume people have checked me out if they're going to reach out to me. Does anybody want to tackle this? Because I feel like we've got some great business minds in here who can really help give this person some insight.
Yeah, that's an extremely good one. And I think it comes down to setting expectations. And are we actually setting expectations properly? And as I actually can't tell who it is, it says Facebook user, but as he or she said, we assume that somebody's going to look on our website and understand and look at every page and see our style. But it's key to set expectations up front and say, I understand you like that, but I hope you notice that my style is more on this side of it. We can try doing that, but I'm more comfortable and I can serve you better by, having it within my style. So again, it's setting expectations in every way and not making assumptions that they read everything they see.
Yeah, I want to hop in on this train.
Yeah, please.
One of the things that used to happen a lot with my clients was something very similar. Like, God, this is really moody, or these are really dark. And not like underexposed dark, just like dark. And one of the things that I started doing, especially in that consult phase, was just asking people to screenshot my website. I would give them homework, still do, like go through my website. Don't send me a Pinterest page with 4,000 images from 80 gajillion different photographers. Go through my website and I want you to screenshot anything that you're attracted to. What is it about my work that you're really enjoying? And then when I can see 10, 15, 20 screenshots of imagery from my portfolio that they are sending me, I can reverse engineer that and dissect the recipe. Oh, they really dig this style light, this particular color profile, all of these things, and comes back to that visual literacy component so that I can recreate that with them for them, which is only going to increase the sale. And then when you start getting into that expressive space, and Nicole, I know you've touched on this with your client on the Sophia Loren inspiration. I want you to recognize your expressions. Do you lean toward more smiley and exciting, or moody and sultry? Like, what's your vibe? What are we after here? And then as I'm designing that session, these are the things I have in my head. Like, okay, they really like Vanity Fair. They really like, natural light, or they really want to be outdoors in hard light, or, insert thing here. And then tie in those expressive pieces, because that's the one thing I can't change in post, right? I can't change their physical expression and the emotions that they're communicating, but everything else, like, I can control.
Yeah, it's so true. And it's wild. The fact that so often we have to remember that we don't have the same definitions. Like, they may be using the same words we're using, but that doesn't mean our definitions are the same, right? Like when they say punchy, they might mean bright colors and hard lines, and we might mean a lot of contrast, right? So when somebody's coming to us and they're coming to us for photography, they don't always realize that the style is all that we do, because they think photographers just take pictures, right? So they think that they're going to just get whatever it is that's in their head. And so we have to make sure that we're taking that time to connect with them and say, well, Kat mentioned, I had a client, a boudoir client, and there was a disconnect between what she was asking me for. I thought I understood, but I didn't make sure. With her inspiration, she said she wanted to look like Sophia Loren, and I'm thinking very sultry. And she might have been thinking a wasp waist or black and white, or, she may have had some other definition in her head. So I love that you are asking folks, look at my work. Let me know from this what it is that you want, because I think that that's such a great way to not only keep them connected with you, but make sure you actually are speaking the same language. So I want to grab one more comment and then ask Becca what her thoughts are for this week. So Cicela says, Also, I feel like it is super important not to assume anything. Don't assume what people can or cannot spend. Don't assume they know what you cost. Don't assume what they want. Always make sure to ask plenty of questions, listen to them, have conversations. 99% of all conflict can be avoided through conversations and compassion. So wise, so well said. So Becca, oh, go ahead, Bassam.
No, that's fine. I'll wait for Becca to chime in.
Okay. Yeah. So I just wanted to touch base with Becca and see what your biggest takeaways were. But I would love to have you repeat what Kat mentioned earlier, this concept of when somebody comes to you with a problem, saying thank you. Maybe you can explain that for folks also.
Yeah. So I mean, that kind of ties into my major takeaways anyway. But this concept I love to share is exchanging the word sorry for thank you. So instead of, if someone, you took a couple days to email someone back, instead of sorry it took me a couple days, thank you for your patience. It switches the power dynamic so powerfully, and it helps give your client a look into how much you care, that you value them as a partner in this creative endeavor, instead of just someone that you're blowing off or not interested in really hearing from. It shows that emotional connection that's so valuable when creating rapport with your clients. Do I keep talking?
Yeah, go on, girl. You're in the solo layout. Do your thing.
Oh my goodness. But I mean, that's something we came back to so many times throughout our conversations this week, was that sense of empathy, that sense of compassion, that personal connection, and how very, very important that is. And we had a couple examples. I shared one and Matt shared one about experiences with our clients that really didn't go that great. And then Kat brought up something that I loved, which was just this phrasing of honoring your business. And I'm going to file that one away for a while. I love that mentality, and like knowing that you don't necessarily have to be a doormat. It is about reaching a solution to a conflict together. You and the client, or whoever you're speaking with, are on the same team. You guys have a similar goal to reach together. It doesn't need to be competitive, but you still need to have a sense of confidence and respect for yourself and your business and what you do. And I also really loved a gentleman today, I think his name was Joshua, maybe, brought up on the topic of negotiation, that there's always going to be this room for negotiation where you can either negotiate your terms or you can negotiate your price. And I loved that, because it's, again, looking for ways to maintain that partnership and reach those similar goals together, and find ways to do that instead of drawing a hard line in the sand every time, if that makes sense. So yeah, again, just looking at your clients as people. They're people. You're a person. Have a personal connection with them.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. I love that so much. Kat, did you have something to add there?
Yeah. Like, love the piece about negotiating terms or price. But I wanted to touch on the honoring your business piece. Honoring your business is not only about conflict, right? It's in making sure that you're going through and doing all of the things that you should be doing for your business, like your tax and your books that I'm late on again, those kinds of things. But it comes from understanding that your business is a separate entity from you as a person. Why? And this is something I like drill home with my students on a regular basis, is while your business will react to everything that you are going through emotionally as a person, and it will be reflected in your sales, it is still a separate piece from you. It is not you. It's not your house. It's not all of the things. Even if it is your baby, your baby is separate from you, right? It's not just you. And you would honor a child, you would honor a separate entity from you, and you have to honor your business in the same way. And that comes in the form of boundaries. And that is once I realized that, it shifted everything. Like, no, my business deserves to generate revenue. Like, that's why it's here. It needs a profit to survive.
I love all of this so much. And I want to, so for my takeaway, I love what you said, Becca, initially, and I know we had talked about it before, making sure we say thank you instead of sorry. Somebody says that they're unhappy and we say, oh, thank you for letting me know. I realize it must be so hard to come to me with this problem, but you're giving me the chance to serve you better now. So I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. And then also, Kat, when we're honoring our business, and as Joshua said in the group today, Becca just mentioned one of our members today came up and talked about negotiation as part of conflict management. And I usually use it in the terms of, if you have to say no to your client, saying no, but, right? So saying, I cannot do this for you, but here's what I can do, or here's what might get us closer to what you need. And then say yes, and, right? So maybe you have a client who says, I love my photos, but can I get the raw files? And for a lot of photographers, they might immediately be like, nope. I want to figure out how I can say yes. If I can say yes, that is the best thing, because I'm giving my client what they need. I'm being of service. So if they say, Nicole, I really love the photos, can I get the raw files? And I would say, yes. And they'll be this much extra because I'm losing creative control. I want to be able to give you to these to you, but this is the deal that we have to make if you want to get your hands on these. That gives them what they want. It also rewards me for being of service to them. So it's kind of a win-win situation. And when Joshua mentioned this, he said, if somebody comes to you and they want to negotiate on price, then you negotiate on terms. So they might say, I only have this much to spend. And you say, okay, well, let's go ahead and do that. But to meet that price point, we can change or remove these things from your service. And if they come to you and they want to negotiate terms, maybe, can we, add a due date to this and change this? And you say, okay, that's fine, but it will change the price by this much. And so making sure that you understand your business enough that when it's time to negotiate, you know what will be of benefit and how things would have to change in order for that to honor your business, like Kat was saying, and also serve your customer. So many really fantastic things that we can look at as artists and business people for managing potential conflicts with our clients, but also with our communities at large. Sometimes we're just going to have folks show up who just, they don't like what we're doing and they're going to tell us. And so as we start to end this portion of the live show where we're talking about managing conflicts, how do you guys deal with that? Somebody who just shows up and they're like, why does everybody like this work? It's crap. Or anything else somebody wants to show up to say to just ruin your day. Friends in the audience today, we want to hear from you too. How do you guys deal with those kinds of conflicts?
I think for me, it's recognizing that rarely is it about me as a person, right? Rarely is whatever's being projected on me about me. And so long as I have a strong enough sense of self that what is being said to me doesn't affect me, doesn't hurt my ego, doesn't cause emotion, then it's really easy to just sit back and listen and give the space for someone to be heard. Rarely is it about you as a person, kind of like what Kat was just talking about. Your business is different from you as a person. While they're interconnected, it's not necessarily a singular entity. So when someone comes to you and they're complaining about your business or they're complaining about a service that you provide, that doesn't mean that they're pointing it all at you, and you can't take it that personally. All you can do is, like we've been saying all along, have a little bit of empathy, understand what is truly being said, and take a few moments before you respond, and everything will go a lot smoother from there.
Yes. Also, Tara just showing up to say, I want to say that I'm at home giving so many poetry snaps during this whole convo. So yes.
I was just sitting over here like
right
at the camera, like, yes, that.
Say it. Jean has also got a thought for us today. He says, I've definitely had to learn that if I'm proud of it and I've done what was asked to do, and if they're unhappy, it's probably something unrelated that is affecting them. It's definitely important I think, for us to recognize that when somebody comes at us from a place of emotion, like you said, Matt, that doesn't mean that it's about us. They could have 8 million things going on in their life, and they just need some way to express their displeasure. One of the things that I think about often is, my first thought is kind of radical personal responsibility, right? Because I can't change other people. I can change me. I can't change other people. So the first thing I go is, did I do anything to contribute to this? Maybe I wrote an article when I was writing article for F-Stoppers. Sometimes people were not thrilled with the things I had to say, and they definitely wanted to let me know. And so I had to say, okay, if I put myself in a position where I'm allowing people to come at me this way, like, am I sharing something that is got people in their feelings? And if so, that's okay. That's not going to be the end of my world. But how did I contribute? If I did I contribute? Is somebody, is it understandable that they're upset? Maybe I've been insensitive. Maybe I said something I didn't realize was offensive to folks. And so the first thing I do is make sure that I'm open enough to go, okay, did I contribute to this at all? Like, is this something I'm putting out into the world that maybe I should deserve a little bit of flack back? If I feel settled in my soul and I know that my intention and everything else that went out into the world was good, I could just let people have their feelings. I don't have to respond. I don't have to engage. And I know that I've chosen the people in my life who get to speak into my life. People I respect, who I believe are good people, who have my best intentions at heart. And if they show up in my life and they're like, girl, we got to talk, then, okay, I need to open myself up and hear those people because I know they have my best interests at heart. So, yeah, for me, that's definitely kind of the line that I skate for dealing with online folks who just have something to say to me. So anything else, guys, before we drop out of this and get into the visual literacy part of the conversation?
Yeah, no, I realize we're kind of coming to the end of this section, but I think there's a couple of things, takeaways that I think it's important to mention as a summary today. One of them is the language we use and the focus on, and with the main goal being focus on the problem instead of having the conversation go all over the place and become personal. And the language we use is extremely important, how we do that. Obviously, we talk about, asking questions and looking for the reason behind the reason and what's really going on, and looking for visual cues and really reading between the lines to figure out what is the real issue. But also the way we behave or what we say can influence, example, if we agree with them, if you're in a confrontation and you say, yes, I agree, or yes, you're right, you've just became part of the problem, as opposed to, staying away from the problem and keep, an open mind to listen to what the real problem is, because they will take advantage of that and kind of put it on you. So saying things like, I hear or I understand that this is important to you for such and such reason, it validates their truth. It may not be the real truth, but it is their truth as they explain it to us. Whereas if you just say, I agree with you, you have just made it your truth without really digging any further. So language and what words we use and how we do it is extremely important also.
That was really, really important. Language creates reality, guys. That's why I'm constantly harping on the fact that story is important, because the stories we tell, the way that we tell them, and the stories we tell ourselves in our head, the things we say about ourselves and our experience, that's the filter we see the world through. You are literally creating the world with the words that you choose. Furious and frustrated don't mean the same thing. If you use the word furious to describe your frustration, you've ratcheted your emotional response up a whole level that it didn't have to be before. So there's so much power in that, Bassam, and I really hope people get it into their heads, because it's not just making sure that we're careful about, where we stand on this dividing line between our client's issue or someone's issue and our truth, but making sure that the words we choose actually suit the situation. And we're constantly, and I know, Kat, you would agree with me here, and Matt as well, we're constantly approaching solving these problems and these conflicts, if they're for our clients, from that place of service, right? Like from that place of empathy and from that place of, let's find common ground. This is not you versus me. This is us versus the problem. And that is a whole different way to stand on an issue. So last final thoughts, guys, before we jump out of this and into the next section.
Well, I just like to say that, like before we even talk about, when it comes to customer service, I think it's really important to remember that dealing with angry customers is a healthy part of your business, because it allows you to listen, it allows you to change, allows you to make things right, and allows you to improve your processes. The other thing to remember is that most unsatisfied customers don't bother to complain. They just leave without saying a word. right? So that's really important. So what that means is that the customers that do complain is probably the tip of the iceberg, right? And it's nice to say, hey, I got 5-star reviews everywhere. Well, that's only the people that wrote, and most people don't give reviews. So I think we should keep that in mind.
I think drawing a line between, or maybe a correlation is a better words. Understanding that somebody coming to you with an issue is the same as somebody having a quote unquote objection in the sales room. It is simply a call for more information. And I know Sue teaches on this quite a bit, Sue Bryce. But it's understanding that the person that's coming to you with a problem or a question is simply doing so because they are considering more. And it might be they expected more, right? Or it might also be like they want more and they want to understand where those boundaries are in order to get it. So it's not, oh my God, I'm a terrible person and we're all going to die. It's, okay, how can I be in service to find a solution to this issue so that we can move forward together?
Absolutely. Ooh, so much good stuff. I have the chills. All right, y'all. So I hope that this kind of refresher course, if you were with us during the week in the mornings on Clubhouse and the Artist Forge, you've been kind of hearing this conversation on conflict. So I hope this refresher was helpful to you. If you weren't there with us, I hope that these tips that we've pulled from those conversations really settle in with you and help you manage the conflicts that you have as an artist, as a business person, a little bit better. If you would like to hear some of these conversations, are taking advantage of the recent update to Clubhouse where they have added the replay option. So if you go to the Artist Forge Club in Clubhouse, you should be able to find the last 3 days worth of conversations. There's so much good stuff in there. I really highly encourage you guys to take advantage of that. So, all right, we're about to move on to the next section of today's live, and that is visual literacy. All right, y'all. Visual literacy is one of the hallmarks of what we do at the Artist Forge. It is our ability to see and interpret and decode the world around us. And this includes things like works of art. It is a language that we are speaking to the people who see our work. And the better we understand the way that people interpret what they see, the better we are able to communicate, to make the kinds of pieces of art that speak with our voice and put the kind of stories out into the world that we want to tell. So to that end, what we're going to do today is have a look at a couple images and just apply what we know about visual literacy, break them down, and see if what we understand about how people interpret what they see can help us understand the image a little bit better. I realize that was convoluted. I hope it still made sense. In the future, when we have anybody in the Artist Forge Facebook group share something for critique along with that hashtag TAF critique, that automatically makes it suitable to be shared here when we do these live streams twice a month for breaking down for the visual literacy portion of our lives. So, but I didn't give folks that in advance. So I'm sorry, I should have told you guys that, which means we are just basically going to grab something from my website and break it down. But for the future, when you guys share, recognize that now it has the possibility to help people understand, help artists understand visual literacy a little bit better. Also, Jean is making fun of me already because I typed it really fast and I misspelled the word. Don't judge me, okay? Yes, it's a capital I. All right. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and share my screen and grab this open tab for us. Apparently, I just have so many tabs open that everything is confused about what I'm trying to do with my life. But this is what happens when you spend your days writing a novel. I have so many, so many things open. If you saw it, it's like what my brain is like, to be quite honest. Okay, so can everybody see this image? Let me see. There we go.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to make that go large for a second, just so that everybody can have a good look. Take a moment to take it in. And what we'll do is we'll have a good look at this image. We'll just look at everything, look at things like the composition, the environment, the color, the costuming, the body language, the color grade, not just the color palette of the image, but the grade that's on it. Look at all of these things. And then we will try to use those to see if we can understand what the image is saying. And I would love to hear from the people in the audience today as well. Hearing from you guys is also really super important so that we can get a good idea how you are seeing and understanding this image.
So are we doing the how do you feel bit first?
Yep, let's start there. Yeah, let's start there.
No
So
judgment, no comments, just how does
just your
how it makes us feel.
Yep, same audience members. We're going to do the same thing. If you've been with us before, when we break down images, this is where we begin. Just looking at the image, how does it make you feel? What is your initial emotional reaction to the shot?
I feel bad for both of them.
I can smell the forest. I can feel the freshness. I can feel like it's more sensory for me. I can smell it. I can hear no birds singing. It's almost as if
Ooh.
the world has become a vacuum and it's just focused on these two, despite the fact that we're in the middle of a forest that should have all sorts of sounds. So that's kind of what it seems to me is this silent moment.
Love that. Jean says, sad. Feels like a warrior going to battle.
Yeah, definitely giving me tragedy all over. And even the color is a little bit kind of sickly and how the yellows and the greens are working together.
I'm actually curious, but I'm waiting for the next step.
Me too.
All right. So did you have something, Becca? Okay.
I feel like I'm disturbing this by
Ooh.
just looking at it. You know, like I'm not supposed to see this. I've wandered upon it. And I feel like I'm
voyeur.
I feel bad for looking at it. Voyeuristic. Yeah. I just feel bad for wandering into this scene.
Erica said desperation, Sisela longing and rejection. So now that we know that we have these feelings about this image, let's see if we can use some of the things we know about visual literacy to try to break down why we feel that way. So, you know, Matt, you mentioned you feel kind of like a voyeur and like the whole world has condensed down to this point of these two people. What is it visually you think that's contributing to that feeling?
Well, I think it's the foreground elements, right, that you're seeing in the corner, kind of this vignette made by foliage that's narrowing my vision in on that. Clearly, they're the brightest part of the image. So everything is focusing in on them. And so with that, I feel like I'm peering through bushes. And like I said, I've happened upon this scene. So that's what draws me in, the dark background, the light foreground elements. I feel like I'm peering in at this.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll let you read Tara's comment if you want to. Oh.
Yeah, it says, my initial reaction and thought, Jasmine and Lancelot fan fiction, something I would really want to read. The emotion is beautiful. She is encouraging and passionate. She is the strength of the moment, beseeching him not to give up and not to be discouraged. Very beautiful read there. So Bassam, what do you think?
You know, I'm struggling with one thing because I see what others have said. I mean, in terms of the emotion, in terms of the desperation, in terms of the, maybe he's going to war, as Jean said. Maybe there's a type of pleading. She seems that she is trying to convince him of something. And I do agree that the focus is on them, but I'm struggling with the intensity of the green in the picture, right? I'm struggling with it because my eye keeps going back and forth between them, and I'm trying to figure out why is. I mean, I understand the forest. It's just the saturation of the green and the intensity is putting me off balance.
I'm really glad that you mentioned that, and I will absolutely address that later on because, yeah, there are some interesting reasons for that, and I definitely would love to talk about that later. But I would love to hear from Becca and Kat before we do that. And I want to share Sisela's reaction really quick. She said, he looks like he's just about to turn away from her. His head is turning away from her, not looking straight at her. She's clinging to him, which is an important word to use here, but he's only holding her shoulder and looking like he's about to let go of her. So really great read on the body language there as well.
This is actually sort of where I was headed. It's interesting to me, their connection and their expressions read more to me like he's come back from war and just cannot communicate everything that has occurred, but everything he's wearing is saying he's getting ready to leave, right? Like everything's clean and there are no dents and there's no dirt and there's no, all of the things, but his emotional is like, babe, we're not good. And that's, I think, is confusing for me. And I noticed the green also, Bassam, but the expression and the moment that they are sharing doesn't match with the costuming for me.
I'm also curious about the color. I don't find anything explicitly wrong with the color. But yeah, I mean, I hear what Bassam is saying about wanting to know more about those choices. So I mean, they definitely have a surrealist quality to them. And I know you know I'm a nitpicker about colors and shadows and stuff, which is completely
No, it's
another
great.
tangent. But yeah, I mean, I'm curious if it's meant to feel like an uncomfortable, more evil, sick green. It's an interesting choice compared to something like a blue, right, which could feel very depressive, and moody, if we're going to lean back on that term. Yeah, and it's an interesting choice. I don't think there's anything explicitly wrong with the choice, but I would be curious since we have you and can pick your brain about it, because it almost has this kind of analogous kind of color palette to it, where there isn't a huge amount of contrast there. She's wearing this soft blue that's almost similar in some ways to some of the other tones in the image. So yeah, it feels very fairy tale, which I think, obviously is the purpose there. And it hits that mark for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've looked at some of the compositional issues. We've looked at some of the lighting issues. We've talked about some of the color, the body language. These are all things that we can use as artists to help communicate our intentions to the viewer. And of course, there's more, even we can expand that even beyond to additional, aspects of visual literacy. But what we've talked about so far are a lot of the main things that I used in this image. And so first I want to answer the question about the sickly green. Becca, you mentioned that early on, that it has a kind of a sickly feel to it. There were a couple of different inspirations for this image, but one of them, if you can Google right now, look up Lamia and the Night. So there is a painting called Lamia and the Night, and it is about a knight who has been captured, for lack of a better word, by a beautiful maiden who also happens to be an evil serpent. And she is known for eating people, particularly in the mythology, it was actually children. But for this particular painting, which is based off of a poem, I believe the poem was written by Tennyson, but I could be wrong. So that was one of the initial inspirations for this. The confusion of love and passion and desire and destruction. So the green is absolutely meant to be sickly. It's the whole scene, the color palette of the scene is not warm and bright and fun. It's all a little bit blue green. The greens have a little bit of, strange yellows in them. It just is not, it's pretty, but it's not quite comfortable. And so that in a way was kind of an homage to that particular painting. I didn't want to plagiarize the painting, of course, but I wanted to use some of the aspects, the concept of the serpent or the woman trying to trap this knight, because he's going off. You can see he has a cross on his shirt, or on his plate. You can see that there is a cross on his sword. So that is kind of a symbol of, going off to do holy things. And then you have this beautiful woman who is trying to seduce him into not going to do the thing. And so you were right. You read that beautifully, Kat. I mean, he's clean. He's not in the middle of war. He has not just come back and is all dirty and grubby, and they're having this warm reunion. She's trying to stop him from going to do what he's going to do. So there's a little bit of exploration of those kind of traditional stereotypes of woman as the seducer and destroyer, and men as the the might of the church and God and the country and whatever else. Just playing with those dynamics and with the kind of the original painting. And then there's some additional influence in there. John Keats, thank you, Tara. Well said. Yes. So she caught both things. So John Keats wrote the poem, and then I believe it was Waterhouse who did the painting. And so, yeah, John William Waterhouse. So then we have the painting, the poem, and of course, my fun playing with that and seeing how I could incorporate some of the feeling without, falling into the land of plagiarization. So the sadness, the feeling of privacy, all of those things that we picked up on, it's all accurate stuff. I mean, it's all an absolutely legitimate way to read this image. So any final thoughts, y'all, on visual literacy, using this as our example before we dive into the very last section of our live stream today?
So, not a criticism on the image, but the one thing that took me out of this completely, and it's such a nitpick, stupid little thing, is the wall. The bricks are not period correct. And
right.
I would not see Home Depot paver walls in this. And that's the only thing that keeps taking me out of it. And sorry, I know you were working with what you got, but I'm like, nope, wouldn't have been a wall like that. So sorry.
Nope, you're correct. You are correct. It would have been fantastic if I could have found an original, maybe just a hand-laid wall somewhere, or composited it in. But I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna let it be what it is.
Just call some masons, Nicole. Get it together.
Right?
There's also the Starbucks coffee cup in the back.
Oh yeah, that one too.
Yeah.
All right. So let me get rid of that screen share real quick. So hopefully getting to see us pick apart an image a little bit. And as if you noticed, we were not critiquing from a point of, I don't like it, here's why, and here's what you could fix. We were using what we understand about visual language to try to figure out why the image made us feel or think the things that it did. And that is what we're really encouraging when we talk about visual literacy with the Artist Forge, is to take everything we understand about all of the visual aspects we have control of as artists, the subjects that we use, the position that they're in, the composition, the lighting, the contrast, the color palette, the environment, the wardrobe, all of those things. We're trying to take advantage of those things and decide how each of those aspects will play into the image we create to help us tell the stories that we want to tell. That would have been a very different image if, we had been in the middle of a city, having that anachronistic, why is a knight and some weird lady here downtown? Like, that would have been an entirely different story. If the body language had been different, it would have been an entirely different story. So all of those aspects of visual literacy that we have at our disposal are there to help us tell stories. So we will do this again at the next live stream. If you want to see your image get looked at this way, make sure that you're posting it in the Artist Forge Facebook group with the hashtag TAF critique, and it will then go into the pile of images that can be pulled to see us exercise our visual literacy skills with it. Yes, the magics. All right, so our final section for our live stream today is mindset. That is one of the other pillars of the Artist Forge, is mindset, the way we think as artists and how the way that we think informs everything else that we do. And today we're going to look at what having a growth mindset looks like and what it is. So I want to give a quick definition and then ask the panelists just to share their experience with what a growth mindset looks like in their lives. If you are in the audience today and you know what a growth mindset is and you have some thoughts on that, please share that now in the comments. We'll make sure to share those as we get toward the end. But very quickly, growth mindset is a term, I believe, coined by Carol Dweck. If she did not coin it, hers is the research and the book most known for focusing on this. But growth mindset is basically your ability to understand that when you look at a problem, if you have a fixed mindset, you believe that your skill ends where that problem starts. You cannot overcome it. That's just who you are. That's the limits of your ability. It stops there. A growth mindset is when somebody looks at that and says, how do I conquer this? This now becomes a way for me to grow, a way for me to change, a way for me to move beyond this. And it will see other people's accomplishments. It will see if somebody else ran a 10-minute, 80 miles. If they did it, it must be possible, which means I could do it too. Somebody with a fixed mindset would look at something like that and say, oh, well, they must be special. That must be something they have in their abilities, but I don't have that in mine. And we can have this anywhere on the spectrum in many different layers of our lives or areas of our lives. So I might have a growth mindset where photography is concerned and think, if I can learn it, I can do it. If there's a problem, that's just a chance for me to learn something new and overcome it. But when it comes to cooking, I might think, I burn water when I try to boil it, and that's it for me. Like, I'm just not a cook. I just don't have that skill. So I might have a fixed mindset. It's not true, by the way, Matt. I saw you cackle. I'm actually not that bad of a cook. But I might have a fixed mindset where cooking is concerned and a growth mindset where photography is concerned. I might have a fixed mindset where people skills are concerned and think to myself, I'm not a good public speaker. It makes me nervous. That's just not who I am. So I'm not going to take the chance of embarrassing myself by trying to do it. But I might have a growth mindset in an area like, building up my painting skills. So just remember that a growth mindset will see a challenge as something to learn and grow through and overcome. That's just something else for you to learn and grow. A fixed mindset will see that challenge as the end of their potential. That's where my ability stops. You'll hear this from a lot of people when they talk about creativity. They'll look at you. They've probably said this to you as an artist. Oh, you're so talented. I wish I could be that creative. But they don't believe that they have that ability. That's a fixed mindset. So I would love to hear from everybody on the panel today. What do you think about the idea of the growth mindset? Is that something important to you? And how do you think that that applies to us as artists and business people?
I don't think that I've ever really termed it as like growth mindset or otherwise. I have heard the term limiting beliefs listed quite a lot. It's a pretty popular term these days. I like to look at everything and try and come to a space of looking at things like a child would. Remembering childhood, like everything's possible and you just kind of go do the things and see what happens, right? And I do the same thing with business and with art and like, well, there's got to be a way through this, like, and I don't look at it as conquering. I know you mentioned, like a way to conquer this is a way to kind of make it whole for yourself. And I look at it more as an integration, especially when learning new skills. So I try not to play in the land of I'm just not good at that. Things that I'm truly not good at, like like truly, like just Cat fails miserably. I just don't do. Um, yeah, but overall, I try and take everything from the space of looking at it the way I would have as a child.
I love that. I think that's a really beautiful way to look at it. And you're right. The word conquer is probably not, the best one to use. I love switching that up for integrate. And yeah, it's really interesting. You mentioned, sometimes the things that we're just are a struggle for us that we just like, so I have 3 boys and my husband, and sometimes when we go to the park, we'll play games together, basketball or whatever. I am the crappiest basketball player in the history of ever. Like, I cannot make a shot to save my life. And in most areas, physically, I usually pick up skills pretty quickly. This is one that defeats me, but it defeats me because I don't care to try, right? Like, it's just not something I care to put the effort into. I'm sure if I had somebody to teach me and I was like, 3 hours every day, I'm going to commit to learning this, and I probably could. But why? I don't enjoy it. There's no reward in it for me. I just don't wanna. But understanding how malleable we are as people means that if for some reason I needed to learn how to play basketball well, I could, and you could, we need to understand that, there's not a limit to your potential. We are malleable creatures. We grow and we change, and you can do all the things. And every growth that we have, like, that sounded weird. I don't want to have any growths. Every time that we grow as people and creators and artists, I don't know why I felt like if I had a growth, it was going to be right here. I was like, oh, maybe that's like an Army of Darkness throwback happening. But if you know, you know. But every time we grow as creators or artists, there's always a catalyst for that. We have to get to the point where our skill level ends and then grow through that into the next level. So in order to do it, in order to grow in anywhere, you need to believe that it's possible. That's why a growth mindset is so important there. So Matt, Bassam, Becca, any thoughts from you guys as we near the end of our time together today?
Yeah, I think. Oh, go ahead, Becca. Go ahead.
Okay. Sorry, Matt. Yeah, I mean, I feel like the talking about a growth mindset factors in really well as a continuation of the conversation about conflict and confrontation and all that, because like Bassam mentioned earlier, having those kind of situations where you're up against some sort of challenge, it's only going to help you get better at what you do. It's a sign that you are growing and learning how to solve problems. And just in general, kind of shifting how you think about the word failure in general is such a beneficial skill to have when you start looking at things, like not being able to play basketball really well, or, someone didn't like your photographs or whatever that may be. If you're looking at that as an opportunity to grow, your potential there, it becomes endless, right? It's not something that needs to hold you down. It's not something that needs to discourage you. And teaching this is something I struggle a lot with my kids. One of them in particular, is very stuck in that kind of fixed mindset where if he's not good at something within the first 5 minutes, he decides that he's not going to ever be good at it and should never practice. And so learning, and I personally have never really had this problem. Like, even since I was a little kid, I was very aware of the fact that I'm starting something new. I'm going to suck for a while, but then I can get better because I've seen other people get better. So learning to develop that, I feel like, can be so incredibly life-changing in just about anything that you could possibly do.
Just to hop in on that for a second, though, as a kid, I was very adept at learning new things pretty quickly. So if I didn't pick up on it quickly, I was just like, oh, no. Right?
True.
But then as I grew, right, okay, now I'm not just like a pudgy potato who's not good at things. I started to realize that just because I wasn't good at it doesn't mean it wasn't possible. And that's really where that shift happened. So
yeah, totally.
He's not going to stay there forever.
Here's hoping. Yeah, it's that's a deeper psychological hole that we need to go down right now. But just, when you develop that own shift in yourself, for you, when did that happen? Was it like further into adulthood, or like
No,
when did the
it
epiphany
was
happen?
like when I was good at something, I was really, really, really fucking good at it. So when I started to notice that I wasn't good at things was probably like late fifth grade, early middle school. And then probably in high school, like that middle school era was just bad. But that's when I was like, oh, but I can practice at things and get better. Because I ended up going to like a magnet school for music programming. And like I was fantastic at oral skills, but I wasn't great at theory. And I was like, this fucking sucks. I'm never going to be good at this. And then I was like, oh, wait, it just takes like practice. Oh, that's how this works. And then I was able to, start integrating that into other aspects of subjects.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is sometimes the curse of the gifted kid. Is you good at so many things, when you come up against something you're not good at, you're like, wait, this isn't supposed to happen. Who invented this shit thing that I can't do? I'm having none of it. It's the worst. It makes you feel terrible about yourself. And then you have to try some things that you fail at later and go, oh, I'm not good at everything. Oh, okay. So there's some challenges out there.
That's just not allowed.
Who invented that shit? I don't appreciate that at all.
See, if I could give people my look at, like, when I feel that way, I think of it as a challenge, because I kind of want to be good at everything. And so if I'm not good at it, then I need to go neurotically get better immediately and like
You're
kick
like,
ass.
oh, this doesn't exist.
Right? Which is probably totally unhealthy in some way. But like, if I could give that power to everyone who doesn't feel that way.
But then you start getting into like the avoidant or anxious relationship styles.
Oh boy. Erica's saying, I've made a lot of strides in this area the past year. I stopped saying I can't and worked to get better at the things I want to improve and learned to love the process. Yes. Yes, Erica. Yes. Loving the process. Matt Bassam.
Yeah, one of the books that I read the past year that really kind of changed my whole concept of this is The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, where he talks about upper limit problems, where most of us, that if you're like any of us in this room, you set goals and you have a high bar for yourself. And then you get to that point and you go from the growth mindset to the fixed mindset, saying, this is all there is. This is as good as it gets. And I can't go a little bit higher. And so you start to self-sabotage and you actually go in reverse. So just recognizing that you're always going to be going through this iterative process of growth mindset, fixed mindset, right? Reaching that upper limit problem, being like, oh, I made my goal. Now I'm really uncomfortable. I have to get shitty at it again so that I can set another goal a little bit higher. And you don't have to do that. Just recognize that it's part of that growth is understanding that you're going to hit these limits, that is a natural part of all of this. And if you are going to set some really high goals, no matter what they are, you're going to get there. And then you have to go past them again. So that is, for me, what really encapsulates the growth mindset, knowing that there's going to be this push-pull, this kind of sine wave up and down of how we feel about ourselves and where we sit with our own goals, and with our own businesses, and with our own self-awareness. But understanding that there are these upper limits, and all we need to do is push through those, and it really starts to open up, wow, a whole new land that we can explore. So,
man,
for me, that's where, I've never really doubted that I can do anything. I suck at a lot. I've never doubted that I could do something, but I find that when I achieve something, whether it's photography or successful business or corporate career or whatever, I start to self-sabotage so that I can build back up to my comfort zone and not have to exceed that at all.
Yeah.
So, reading that book really helped reframe things for me and understand that when I get to that point, that I'm aware that, oh, this is my upper limit, time to reframe things, time to go a little bit further beyond that.
And what was the name of that book again, Matt, for folks in the audience today?
Yeah, it's called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. It's pretty well known book, and he's got a couple of others out there, Conscious Luck and whatnot. But The Big Leap really got it.
Great fucking book. Yeah.
It's Gay.
Yes.
First name?
Yes.
Cool. I'm sharing that. We want to get to Bassam. There's a couple comments really quick that we might be able to address. So Melissa said, this integration often takes time and we aren't always allotted that time, like in the school curriculum. So do you recognize you might be self-sabotaging or how do you recognize you might be self-sabotaging and stitch your mindset back? Like, how do you recognize? For me, it's fear. When fear shows up, that's when I know, what's happening is my brain is trying to protect my ego. It's like, okay, we don't want you to fail. That hurts. It makes you question who you are, if you're good enough, all that stuff. So let's go back into the comfort zone where we're safe and everything is okay. So I know that if I hit those moments of fear, then those are actually a signpost. That's not telling me run away. It's actually going push into this because this doesn't go away until you grow past it. So for me, I know fear becomes the signal to me that this is if I don't push past, I'm going to be stuck in wherever the boundaries of my comfort zone is. I'm not going beyond that unless I push past where I'm afraid.
I think this is actually a really great, like, that question and all of the different answers to this is a really great topic. Because phoenixing through stuff is a default for a lot of artists. They like hit a goal and then they immediately burn everything to the fucking ground so that they can start over and hit like a goal just slightly outside of that, instead of realizing that goal is now ground zero. You don't have to burn through it. It's already there. Just keep going. And ways that we can identify. So like, just put a pin in topic ideas, because that's a huge conversation.
Yeah. I'm gonna write it down right now, Kat. Does anybody else have an answer for that question with Melissa before we Bassam, we have not got to you yet. I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
I want to hear your thoughts.
I'm here. Listen, for me, growth mindset versus fixed mindset manifests itself in multiple ways. And I think it's things like inward looking versus outward looking. It's things like ego versus generosity. It's things like competition versus collaboration. I'm not on my own. I can harness the skills and talents of multiple people to do what I want to do, or what we want to do. I mean, the famous example of competition versus collaboration, what Matt and Sisela did recently by getting together and just completely elevating each other through collaboration and love and generosity, and you add whatever word you like. So it's a mindset that I'm not on my own, and whatever I do with other people and whatever I can do to elevate people will only elevate me and make me better. Right. So that's kind of it's a general way of being, I guess.
I love that. I love it so much. Jean said, my journey as a filmmaker is a perfect example of mindset. I know I'm not very good, but I don't need to be. I'm growing and I can see the progress. So I just need to keep believing I can do it. VMAs, here I come. Heck yeah. I mean, and that's absolutely the truth. Anytime we take on something new, whether or not we become good at it is going to be predicated upon our ability to be bad at it. Like, we have to be okay with sucking at first. We have to be okay with looking at what we did and think, this looks like a pig with sparkles. This is not a unicorn. How has this happened? And letting that be okay. Remembering that is just the first signpost to the beginning of growth. That's what we go through, all of us. And the more willing we are to suffer a little bit, to not be great, to struggle bust through the first part of it, that means that we're really going to shoot up later on. Once you get the initial skills of any skill set, the first period of growth happens really, really fast. It's not until you start getting to the end of mastery that you have to claw and scratch your way for every small improvement. This happens with any skill set. You'll see this with world level athletes. They're not winning by a mile. They're winning by 1/10 of a 100th of a second. Like, they are barely beating each other because it's really hard to get better when you're the best. it's really easy to get better when you're crap, because the difference between the bottom and the middle, you get there really quickly. So allow yourself those first few stumbling steps, because you're going to start running after that, and you're going to cover ground really, really fast. And hopefully those initial wins are the things that remind you, hey, this can happen. You get those initial wins, and it becomes the proof of concept, right? That you can continue and do the thing. So, woo, so much good stuff today. This is why mindset is so important. You first have to believe you can change and grow. Then you get to change your mindset. You get to change the stories you tell yourself about who you are and who you're capable of. And then there's no upper limit. There's just a next door to open and pass through. So that was the Mindset Minute. It was more than a minute, but it's good. It was a great conversation. We are at the end of our live stream today. So as we do in the mornings, I want to make sure we have any final thoughts y'all want to share with the audience today. Friends in the audience, do you have any final thoughts for us? Type those up in the comments section. Let's share those, and then let's get out of here and go to bed.
I keep looking at Cat's Bourbon and going, I want one of those. Yeah, there it is. There's my
Rub
upper
it
limit
in.
problem. I just don't have any.
Come on
No, I
down.
think-
I'm sure it's snowing there. It's only raining here, and there are orange leaves. It is still fall here.
We had fall
right
for
over
a couple of
fall.
hours last month. Yeah, we had fall for a couple hours. So I think this has been awesome. I love that this is the kind of the first time we've been able to do this. I love all the audience participation. I think, you know, the conversations from here, like Kat said, we can start pinning topics. I really love this format, and I can't wait to do this again, you know, tomorrow night, right? We're doing this again tomorrow night? No?
No.
Okay. The next time we do it, I can't wait to be here.
Same. Yep. Any other
Jean,
final
we
thoughts,
love you
guys?
too.
Yes, I know. Gina's the sweetest. Tara, thank you so much for being here today and sharing your thoughts. It was so great to hear.
Tara is eloquent AF.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Good grief. Sissela, loved having you here as well. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts today. And Erica, yay, Erica. Erica's awesome. She shares so much and is so generous with her knowledge in the mornings. Any other final thoughts, guys? All right. Oh,
I
it's
just
on
don't
Brian.
want. I don't want to forget the couple of people that didn't share their name, and like try to figure out how to share their names, because I'd
Yeah,
love to
oh.
know who they are and say thank
Yes.
you.
I
Let-
think
let-
that's the StreamYard thing.
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what happens, guys, is I'm using a platform called StreamYard for us to be able to do this. If you would like your name to show up when you leave a comment, you do have to give StreamYard permission to do that. So if you want your name to show up so we can thank you personally, make sure that you do that. And if you were here today, just type your name real quick. If you're a Facebook user and you were here, it just says Facebook user, like this lovely comment. I got here super late. Let us know who you are so we can say hi and thanks. Thank you. So great to have you, Melissa and Claudia as well. Super glad you got to be here for a live, Claudia. I know we didn't get to have you always. So y'all, here is what we're looking at. Juliet.
Julia.
Oh, hi. Yes. Yay. So glad that we got to have you with us.
We also had a Josh and Sarah were in here earlier
Oh, great.
that were Facebook users.
Nice. Okay. Did you check the group?
Yeah, that's why I keep looking
Nice.
over here.
Yes. Okay, awesome. Yeah, so here's what we're going to do, y'all. We are going to be doing these lives twice a month on the second and the last Thursday of the month. Of course, we'll be skipping this for Thanksgiving, but we'll be back in December, the second Thursday and the last Thursday at 7. We're going to get together, do the same thing we did today, break down some of the topics that we covered during the month in our live Clubhouse meets in the morning. If you're not part of those, what are you doing with your life? Come hang out with us in the morning. Sleeping, right? I know it's at 6 a.m. for folks on the West Coast, but you got to get up and do your morning walk.
Yes,
your
Mom.
exercise. Get your exercise.
Get the exercise.
I know. So yeah, if you're not part of those, come and hang out with us. But we'll be back here every second and last Thursday of the month at 7 p.m. Mountain Time. That is 6 p.m. on the West Coast and 9 p.m. on the East Coast. Come hang out with us. We will be breaking stuff down, doing our visual literacy lessons, covering a little bit on mindset. So you know you can be here for that. This will be on YouTube and Nicole Creates. We're going to have this on our website as well, theartistforge.com. So you can have access to that. And of course, if you're in the Facebook group, you can just scroll back through and find this during the lives there. But first, Matt, Bassam, Kat, Becca, they deserve a round of applause. Y'all are amazing. Thank you so much for being here, sharing your vast wealth of knowledge and being vulnerable and taking time out of your day for the folks. It's pretty amazing. Oh, she's tired, man. Give the woman a break.
I don't
All
have
right,
an excuse
so-
now. I'm getting my kids up for
now.
school.
Right. Well, y'all, thank you for being here with us. I hope we'll see you in Clubhouse bright and early at 7 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. Tomorrow morning, we'll be closing up the week. So come and join us, hang out with us there, share your thoughts, go back, check out those replays so you can hear the previous conversations during this week on how we manage conflict and confrontation. And we hope we will see everybody at the next live. Have a fantastic night, guys. Go have some sweet dreams. Matt, you don't have to leave when I end the broadcast. Have a fantastic day. Go make amazing things. We'll see you in the morning.
Bye,
Bye,
Eliza. We saw
everybody.
you.